right now we're going to go in search of a Pontchartrain. The heck is a Pontchartrain? Hi everyone, Tom here. You're watching Joy and Route. Thanks for joining me on the channel here today. I suited up today because it's pretty chilly. As you can see, I'm wearing a toque today instead of a regular ball cap like I usually wear. And I got on some jeans. And because it's cold, it's in the 40s, so not the greatest weather. And you know, that's maybe kind of what we're going to talk about in a little bit, but yeah, it's I think you're just going to laugh at me here because you probably already are well aware of what the heck a Pontchartrain is. But I remember the old song by the great band, a timeless song really, right? Because so many songs are timeless. But I think it came out around, I want to say 79, 80. And it's called In the Heart of the Night. And you remember that song? I used to love it. And I'm thinking that it was out at about the time that I was driving around in Denver, because I was at my second Air Force Tech School, and I was stationed there at Lowry Air Force Base. And it just seems to me that that's when I heard it. And I think the band was kind of popular around that time. But there was a lyric in that song that goes something like, there's a full moon rising, shining down on the Pontchartrain. And I always thought to myself, what the hell is a Pontchartrain? Well, you know, some 40 or more than 40 years later, I find out, oh, it's a lake. As a matter of fact, it's a lake at the northern side of New Orleans. And so, yeah, I'm actually on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain right now, so not far away from New Orleans. This park is called Fontainebleau State Park. And so it's the second park that I have stayed at in the Lake Pontchartrain area. And I'm just going to show you that it looks pretty darn soggy around here, doesn't it? And yesterday it did rain all day long. Interestingly though, I have noticed that between this park and the park that I stayed at last year at around this time, there's always water everywhere. And I think that just seems to be natural in this area because, of course, New Orleans, I guess, is technically 2 feet underwater. But yeah, just, I mean, you can see it. There's just water everywhere. But it's like, it was like this when I first got here. Now, we had had a little rain before that too. It's been a wet time in the past few weeks, and the entire country has been dealing with ice storms, rain, snow, polar vortexes, right? I mean, it's just kind of going nuts, as the winters sometimes do. But Yeah. It never does dry up. And it was just like this over at the other park that I was at a year ago. That one was, I think it was called Fairview Riverside State Park. It's not all that far from here. I'm surprised that they have like 2 state parks like in such close proximity to each other. But whatever. Thought I'd give this one a try. I like this one. It's nice. And so was the other one. Just kind of soggy. Maybe in the middle of summer it dries up a little bit. I don't know. I do love the Spanish moss that just kind of hangs from the trees. That's very cool. Look at that. Just beautiful. But on my mind this week has been whether or not it's better. Is that the word I want to use? Better living in a van down by the river in the wintertime. Is it really better? Yeah. I suppose that I could just cut to the chase and say, yeah, it's better. But is it really? There's some nuances that you really have to take into consideration. I gave up the comfort of a roomy home with a high efficiency furnace and a central air conditioner in order to take off and drive all over the United States in what's essentially a cargo van that just has a house kind of built out inside of it. And I think that we probably all know what cars are like in the winter and in the summer, right? You drive to the Costco or department store, or, wherever you're going to go in the winter, and you park and you go in, you do your thing, and you come out, and what was a nice toasty warm car when you first got out, having driven over to the place, is now freezing cold again. And so you got to warm it all back up again. Or conversely, in the summer, it's just blazing hot inside the vehicle. Vehicles are like that. Of course, Joy has, I guess, 7 layers, 8 layers, something like that, of aircraft grade insulation, which I think is really nothing more than what many people know of as Reflectix. That's a brand name. There are no-name brands of insulation that is very similar to Reflectix, in that it's a couple of layers of a reflective foil kind of material sandwiched, in between which there is sandwiched a layer of like bubble wrap, thin bubble wrap, to give it an air gap, right? Because you need an air gap for insulation. And then you put 8 layers of that down, and theoretically you got a pretty good R value going there. It's not as good as a home's R value, I can definitely tell you that. And I do have 2 forms of heat in Joy that I can turn on and stay warm. One is the built-in L-well heater, which is a hydronic heater, which is, I guess, a fancy way of saying that it's a system that heats a tank of liquid and then circulates that liquid through a heating system. There's a heat exchanger that it passes through, and a couple of fans behind that blow the warmed air out. And the tank is full of basically antifreeze. It's actually the same antifreeze that Ford uses to put into the radiator of Joy. The radiator and the L-well system are not in any way related to each other. They're completely independent of each other. So it doesn't have anything to do with the heat from the engine doing anything to heat the living space in Joy. In fact, there's a heater that sips fuel from the main fuel tank. So it is a gasoline heater, and that heats the antifreeze that is stored in a tank, and it basically just keeps making sure that that tank maintains a temperature high enough, and it's nearly 200 degrees, such that when it's circulated through the system and it hits the air exchanger and the fans blow through the air exchanger, that it warms the vehicle. And I will say it's a very comfortable heat that produces. My other form of heat is a space heater that I got my very first winter, because I was thinking I might just need it. And I didn't even use it that first winter, which kind of surprises me, because when I used it during the second winter, I thought, oh, I should be using this a lot. As long as I have electric power, I can, plug it in, because space heaters are electric. Well, yeah, I mean, you could get different fuel sources for heaters, but this one happens to be electric. And it's made by Honeywell, and it's a turbofan model of their space heater. And so it forces hot air past, a heating element. And there's two different heat settings, a low and a high. And the air, it really throws air a good long distance. I have it set all the way near the back of Joy in what we refer to as the garage, right? So it's backed by the cargo doors, but it blows forward into the cabin, and it warms it up very, very well. It's surprising. But it's weird. It's just not quite as comfortable as the L-well heater is. I can't necessarily explain it. One of the things that I might assume is going on there is that the heat exchanger for the L-well system is more down by the floor, whereas the space heater is blowing from about sort of midway up in the height of the living space. So, and then it's blowing forward. And of course, we know heat rises, so maybe it's just that the lower part of the living space isn't as warm as the upper side of it is. I can look at my indoor thermometer, and I can see that it's like close to, say, 80 degrees in there, and yet there's still a chill that I kind of feel that I don't feel when I'm running the L-well heater, even though the L-well heater may only be set to give me maybe a 74 degree internal temperature. So it's really weird. I can't really necessarily explain that, but it is what it is. And we'll talk a little bit more about this whole weather thing in a moment, but turns out we're almost here, and I just wanted to spin the camera around here and just kind of show you where we're at. There's I don't know, some sort of a center here. I don't know if it's an interpretive center or whatever. I think that there's supposed to be a bathhouse in here, bath restrooms and whatnot. But yeah, you can see water all over everything here. And picnic area, also kind of swampy. But yeah, there's the road we just came in on. Look at all that beautiful Spanish moss. I just love that. But let's go out. We can see that there's a lake out here, so let's go see Lake Pontchartrain. And I can see something else too that I'll just mention, and that is that across Lake Pontchartrain from south to north, north to south, I guess depending on which direction you're driving, there is a bridge. And I want to say it may be the longest non-suspension bridge in the world. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. I'll look it up and maybe put something on the screen. But I can see it out there. I wondered if it would be visible, but I know that it does kind of drive up in this direction. And yeah, oh, look at the sculpture out here. That's beautiful. And this pier goes out a ways so that we can go out and kind of take a look. I don't know that we'll actually be able to see New Orleans. New Orleans is down that way. The southern shore of Lake Pontchartrain is the northern boundary of New Orleans, because of course it can't expand any further into the lake, so there's that. But I certainly don't see the city down there. Maybe if we get out further, we will be able to. But this is a huge lake. I want to say 20 miles from the south going north, or, you know, the north to south extent of the lake. And I do hope the breeze isn't messing with the audio at all. Of course, I got my little mic with its wind muff on, so hopefully that will make sure that we're not getting too blasted by the breeze. It is pretty strong. You can see there's a little bit of whitecaps out there on the lake. But there's that bridge way out there. And not only that, but it's apparently a toll bridge, so you have to pay to drive it. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't need to drive 20 miles across the lake on a bridge. I mean, there's some novelty to that, but I don't know if it's worth paying for. But yeah, New Orleans is down there on the other shore of the lake, and I certainly don't see any buildings or anything else down there. I don't even see the shore on the other side of the lake, frankly. Oh, yes, I do see it. I'll probably have to zoom in post so that you can see what I see there, but yeah, it's definitely there. So there's New Orleans for you. And there's that bridge that goes from New Orleans all the way up to the north side of the lake. That's pretty cool. Overall, I'm truly impressed with Louisiana. I think they do their state parks up really well. So they have good discounts for seniors and veterans. So, you know, if you are looking for a place to, you know, winter over, Louisiana in the winter, not too bad. Not too bad at all. So thinking about the weather again, talking about the cold. It's been so cold lately. And by the time I post this, we're probably going to be in the middle of another polar vortex coming down. So it's been kind of one wave after the other. Now, being down here really close to the Gulf, I haven't encountered snow or ice yet. But the last few nights, the temperatures have been below freezing. They were not last night. I think it was maybe 39 was the low last night, but several nights previous to that, it was definitely below freezing. So you got to keep the heaters running, and it doesn't really, feel like you want to be outside. Hate to say it, but over the past several days, especially with the rain yesterday, I just kind of hung out in joy and did some work. I'm still finishing up on the year-end accounting, which, by the way, if you maybe recall or saw the video I did this past summer where I mentioned that I am writing my own accounting software, a full-on double entry, multiple entity accounting system. That's going really well. I'm really loving using it. And the 2024 will mark a year's worth of data in both my last accounting system and the one that I'm in the middle of authoring. I won't even say the middle of authoring it. It's feature complete. It does exactly what it needs to do. So I'm kind of enjoying where I am with it and can actually use it. Yeah, and then just kind of lounging around and watching YouTube and wearing sweatpants because it's just too cold to be wearing shorts anymore. And yeah. And of course, when I turn off any of the heaters, the temperature starts dropping fairly rapidly. So there's that. So is it better living in a van and fleeing the cold of the north and the snow and all that stuff that everybody's been dealing with a little bit further north? Yeah, in some respects it is. But when it gets too cold and you're just not really feeling like you want to be out in it, then it can be a little confining. So I guess you kind of have to ask yourself, can I deal with just hanging out in a relatively small confined space for a prolonged period of time? It might be several days before you manage to get to a warmer period where you can get out and start enjoying life again. So cocooning is a thing, and it is what it is. And frankly, I guess the long and short of it is, I don't really like to be cold. Cold is not my jam, but neither is hot. I've found that I'm really kind of a creature who wants to live in a fairly narrow band of temperature. And of course the humidity plays a big factor in that too. In the heating season, I'm probably in the van running temperatures at a minimum 72, probably more likely 75 to 80, frankly. But that's actually a dry heat, right? Because when it's cold, you don't have the humidity. And the other side of the coin, of course, is that in the summer, it gets awful darn hot. And then I'm really looking to try and maintain below 75. And hopefully the air conditioning will take the humidity out to make it comfortable. But then just as soon as you stop running the AC, the humidity creeps back in and and it starts getting uncomfortable almost immediately again. So yeah, and of course AC is a real battery killer. Oh my God, you can exhaust your store of energy pretty fast. Now, if you are driving a lot, that's fine. If you are in a park like this and can be connected to power, then that's going to be fine too, because you have plenty of reserves. But if you're out boondocking somewhere, like if you wanted to go out in the desert somewhere, or on BLM land on the western side of the country, well, then you better you better do it at the during the right temperatures and whatnot. It's very nuanced, this whole discussion of, is it better to live in a van in the winter than just to say yes or no. Depends on what you have for heat. Depends on how cold it's going to get. And speaking of that, I don't really like it when it gets down into the teens. I don't know what I'd do if I found myself in a situation where I was going to have to endure single digits or negative digits. Apparently there's a theory out there that these embassy RVs have been shown to withstand temperatures down to minus 14 degrees Fahrenheit, with people, trying to, live in them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they did that. Or what temperature they were actually able to maintain. Because that's the thing, is I noticed that as the temperature drops down into the teens, especially down through the 20s, and as you start approaching the teens, the heater is struggling to keep up. So you're going to be experiencing a drop of temperature whether you like it or not. And I'm not going to like it. That's just that. And that is why, as long as you have a connection to shore power, some form of electric connection to the van, and a space heater, you may be okay. But boy, I'll tell you, if you're contemplating this kind of a thing as a lifestyle, or as a mode of travel, a mode of retiring, a mode of just, trying to see what you haven't yet seen, do it safely, because you don't want to do stupid things with either electric or alternative fuel sources in a confined space, right? You could put yourself in a world of hurt really fast. So I'm always trying to be very safe. For instance, when I leave the van, if I'm going to, say, the bathhouse or the restrooms or whatever in a park, I never ever allow the heaters to be running. I always shut everything down before I leave. And I don't know. Using a fuel source like propane or butane or something like that in a confined space, you're burning some of the oxygen that you're trying to breathe too. So you need ventilation, and ventilation is what's going to keep you from maybe heating things to the level that you want them to be at. I don't know. So that's kind of the scoop, I guess, on whether or not it's better to live in a van down by the river sometimes in the winter. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little ramble. And my musings on Lake Pontchartrain. And I hope you have a good week. I hope you're staying warm. It's wintertime, and it's been a wild one so far, and it's not over yet. We'll see you in the next video.